So last week we talked about this suggestion from Donald Trump that he wants to end birthright citizenship via executive order. And we talked about a few different layers of it. One of the discussions was, is it a distraction from the fact that people can actually vote and affect change in terms of who represents them? And I said, well, it might end up being one, but I don't think it's like a deliberately planted distraction. And then we got into the legal conversation, which is, would it be legal to end birthright citizenship via executive order? And of course, most legal experts said that no, that's not something that would be legal. And then we talked kind of about the moral element of it. Is birthright citizenship a good thing or a bad thing? But there's a really important discussion to be had that's not really being had, which is, let's imagine that you got rid of birthright citizenship, however you do it, right? Executive order, constitutional amendment, doesn't even matter. Let's assume we get rid of birthright citizenship. How do you then determine citizenship? And it's a really important question that might not seem like an important one, because there are people who, because they imagine, for them, the problem with birthright citizenship is what they believe to be brown people coming in, birthing kids, and using those kids as so-called anchor babies to then stay in the United States. But that's not the only way in which people become citizens of the United States in ways that you might agree or disagree with. And if you eliminate birthright citizenship, it's not actually that obvious how you put in place and outline the method or methods through which individuals can become citizens of the United States, because there are a whole bunch of new issues. And the main one is, how do you determine who is a citizen? The obvious one would be, okay, listen, you must be born to two people who are in the United States legally. Doesn't mean citizens, but they've got to be here legally. Well, hold on a second. You can be here legally on a tourist visa for a 1-week visit, have a baby. The parents were here legally at the time that the baby was born, but they're not citizens and they're not allowed to stay indefinitely. Is that what you're looking to do? And you might say, David, no, you can't just be here legally. You must be born to two citizens of the United States. Well, hold on a second. If you have two legal permanent residents here and they have a kid here, they're not citizens. Can the kid still be a citizen? Well, that's a sort of another layer of questioning. Well, so what about at least one parent must be a U.S. citizen? So are you saying you don't care about one parent being undocumented unless one parent is legally here? Because this is kind of a big argument to then say, well, I'm actually fine as long as as long as one of the parents is a legal citizen, but two undocumented parents wouldn't be okay. That now seems like we're just arguing in shades of gray. So then you get to, what about a citizenship test? What about some kind of test to become a citizen? And you might say, David, no, just getting rid of birthright citizenship doesn't mean that you now need to take a test. Well, hold on a second. If birthright is no longer a factor in citizenship, there are tens of millions of Americans born in the United States to two legal American citizens who would fail a basic citizenship or civics test. Are you suggesting we strip them of citizenship? And if so, what country do they have to go to? And more importantly, do you end up in some kind of state of limbo until you're old enough to even take the test if where you're born no longer is what determines citizenship? Even people born in the United States to two legal American citizens might be in this limbo until they pass the test. So just because you might see this idea of birthright citizenship as related to the immigrants coming here to, in this crafty way, birth a child to then get all of these benefits, this is just as much about who should get citizenship as it is about who shouldn't. And just because you've identified, as some people who watch the show, primarily on the right, have, just because you've identified this scenario where immigrants come here to have a kid as some kind of strategy, as an example of someone who should not get citizenship, if you get rid of birthright citizenship, you have to then establish a new set of rules as to who does get citizenship. And it's not as easy as some people believe that it is. And then lastly, by the way, let's step back from citizenship altogether, from the really big hypocrisy with the idea of using an executive order to change how the Constitution is interpreted. Do the Second Amendment people that Trump mentioned during the campaign about maybe they would do something about Hillary Clinton, do the Second Amendment people really want to open the door to the reinterpretation of the Constitution by presidential executive order? Because you can't justify reinterpreting the 14th Amendment by executive order without allowing for the possibility of reinterpreting the Second Amendment by executive order. And I know that they'll come up with some reason why it's different, but reinterpreting amendments by executive order can't only be limited to the amendments that the right wants to reinterpret. And for their sake, not that I'm their strategist in any way, it seems like that's opening up a Pandora's box that I don't think that they really want to open. Send me your thoughts. I am thrilled to tell you that today's episode is sponsored in part by Blinkist.com/Pakman. Blinkist is a really unique service for your phone, tablet, and web browser, and it is incredibly useful for people like me who love books and learning but are busy. Blinkist takes the best and most popular nonfiction books and condenses them into 15-minute audiobooks. I'm sure that if you're like me, you have a very long list of books that you've been meaning to read. You only have so many hours in the day, and that's why Blinkist is so amazing. They take the most important information, the themes, the insights from each book, and they distill it into a 15-minute audiobook that you can listen to in one sitting. I've listened to a ton of books on Blinkist. Our audience can get a 7-day free trial by going to Blinkist.com/Pakman. If you're watching on YouTube, I've put a link in the description. I have listened to Blinkist books about economics, about political science, about history, about science, so many interesting things. And after the free trial, if you like it, you can continue enjoying thousands of condensed audiobooks for about $5 a month. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. That's BLINKIST.com/PAKMAN.